So in this video, I'm going to introduce the idea of JSON, and we're going to go over that and how to deal with it in Python. So the first question is, what is JSON? So it stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it's just basically a text file, okay? It's a text file that has a specific type of structure, and basically what it does is it allows you to describe data, okay? And so I know this is kind of a vague sort of a notion, but I think it'll make more sense when we actually go into some examples. But the reason why we're going over this is because JSON is used by a lot of different tools for importing and exporting data, okay? So most of the modern programming languages, of course, because it's JavaScript object notation, JavaScript has built-in support for it, and Python has libraries, and Java and all of the major programming languages have libraries for dealing with this format. Okay, so the format is very popular. It's used, again, for expressing data, for importing data, exporting data, and things like that. So all right, so let's actually just go into some examples. All right, so here's the first example, okay? And you see that basically what you have is you have curly braces, so very similar to like a Python dictionary, okay? That's what this kind of looks like. And then you have basically key value pairs or name value pairs. And so these are string values here. So this is in parentheses. So we have the key is name and then the value is Bob Smith, and then they're separated by commas. Now it's important that you observe the syntax. Like you have to use curly braces. You can't use parentheses or anything like that. Okay. Notice this 42 is not in quotes, so this is an actual number. So JSON will support numbers. Okay, and then we have title, senior engineer. These are all separated with commas. Okay, the white space doesn't matter. We could have put this all on one line if we had wanted to. Okay, but that's the simplest JSON example. Okay, and so you could see how you could use something like this to, export data or set up like a properties file or something like that because of the ability that you have to specify all of this information. Okay, so this is like a very, very simple JSON example. Okay, and so again, why should you care? As I said earlier, a lot of programs allow importing and exporting data using JSON. All the modern programming languages deal with this, and if you are going to be an IT professional, you will encounter JSON at some point. So this is why we're going over this. All right, so let's actually look at another example, okay? Now this one's a little bit more interesting than the first one. So again, we still have the curly braces and we have our key value pairs, but now for this one, instead of the value just being a simple data type like another string or a number, here the value portion is an array, okay? And so arrays are noted with the square brackets, okay? Just like they are, like a Python list, okay? So this looks very similar to that. So we have the square bracket, and then we have this list of items, okay? So this is another example of JSON. And then another example right here, in this case, what we have is we have nested dictionary, okay? So again, we still have the outer curly braces. We have the name Bob Smith. But then for here, dates, instead of it being just another string or an array, this one is also a dictionary or, a key value pair set. So we use the curly braces again, and then we can put in, a bunch of different key value or name value pairs. So here we have birth date is this string and death date is that string, okay? So basically what we can do is we can nest, we can use this nested syntax all throughout, okay? And so we can have, like I could have birth date and I could have another curly brace in here. I could put in an array and stuff, okay? So you can kind of go crazy, and we'll do some more examples that show some of this. Okay, so in Python, if I want to be able to handle JSON, there is a library built into the language called JSON, so you have to import it. So you're going to do import JSON. And then if you have a string of JSON, so notice that this variable here, JSON, is a string. I've got the single quotes out here, but then this is just my actual JSON string, okay, then I can parse the JSON using JSON.loads. So I pass this string of JSON into JSON.loads right here, okay, and then I'm going to set that equal to data. And now what that does is it converts all of this into a Python data structure that I can deal with, okay? So for example, the result is a Python dictionary. I can do data age, okay, and then that will return this parameter right here. Likewise, I could do data city, or data name, okay? All right, so before I get into the read in JSON file and convert, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the terminal here, and we're going to look at some of these examples, okay? So I'm just going to open up. I've created some of these files that were here in the PowerPoint. I've created them. Okay, so here you see JSON1.txt. Okay, there it is. We have name Bob Smith, age 42, senior engineer. So I'm going to actually write a quick little program, okay, in Python to go ahead and read this in. Okay, so let's bring up another tab here. So I'm going to just do it right here from the terminal. Okay, so we'll go Python. All right, and we'll say import JSON. Okay. All right, and now, okay, I guess actually, well, all right. So I guess what I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and create the string by hand. Okay, so we'll have, I'll just make this A equals, and then I'm going to do kind of the same thing that I did before. So we'll have name Bob Smith. Okay, then we'll have age 42. Then we'll have title engineer, whatever it is. Okay. Okay, and then we'll have the closed curly brace and the closed single quote. All right. So there's A. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, I'll do data equals JSON dot loads. And then I'm going to pass in A. So remember, A is just this string right here, okay? So I do that. And now if I look at data, okay, it looks the same, but now this is actually a, see if I do type data. Okay, this is actually a Python dictionary, okay? So I can say data name, okay, gives me Bob Smith. Data age gives me 42. Data title, okay, it gives me engineer. If I do one that's not in there, like if I do data foo, okay, it says there is no key named foo. I can do data.keys, okay, and it gives me the different keys, so name, age, and title. Okay, I think is values one. Yep, okay, so that gives me just the values without the keys. So all the things that you can do with the dictionary, I can do now with this data, because I parsed it using this data up here. Data equals JSON.loads A. Okay? All right, so now let's make a slightly more complicated JSON. Okay, so we'll do B equals, okay, and then this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to say name Bob Smith. Okay, and then we'll do the one with the arrays. We'll do dates. And then, just so I don't have to type as much, I'll just do, actually here, I'll do it like this. I'll do numbers, and then I'm just going to do a list of random numbers, 94, 57, 62, okay? It doesn't really matter. The point is to just demonstrate an array here. Okay, so then I'm going to do my closed brace and my quote. All right, so now I have B. All right, so again, if I do data equals JSON.loads B, okay. All right, so now what happens if I do data name, okay, again, Bob Smith, no surprise there. But if I do data numbers, okay, see how now I have this list? Okay, data numbers returns a list. So I should be able to do data number 0. Okay, that gives me 94. Data number sub 1 gives me 57. I should be able to do length data numbers, right? That should return 3 because there's 3 items in my list. Okay, see that? All right, so as I say, you can use this JSON to be incredibly expressive, and you can, nest all kinds of things. Okay, so let's do a final example. C equals, all right, we'll do name Bob. Okay, and then in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have another key value set, another dictionary underneath. So we'll do, maybe we'll do something like this. We'll do skills, and then we'll do, this will be an opening curly brace, and we'll do fighting, (5), throwing 10, and whatever, climbing 9. Okay, so now I'm going to have a closed curly brace to close this one, and then I'm going to have a closed curly brace out here. Then I'm going to do okay. All right, so now that's my C. So if I do data equals JSON.parse C, sorry, JSON.loads C. Okay. Now, if I do data name, again, it's what you would expect, Bob. Data skills, okay, that's going to return me a dictionary, okay? And so now I can do data skills, like throwing, for example, okay? And that returns to me 10, because see how throwing is 10, all right? If I did data skills climbing, okay, what would that return? Well, it should return 9. And it does, okay? So this is a sort of quick and dirty introduction to JSON, okay? And now I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint and go over one more thing, okay? And that is reading in a file, okay? So you see in the examples that I just showed you, I was typing in the JSON, into a big long string, all right? Now in practice, you would never actually do that. So instead what you're going to do is the JSON's going to come to you in some kind of a file probably, all right? And so here all I've done is I've just wrote a very simple, okay, this should be a review actually from before. I open up the file, I loop through the lines, and then I append each line to this string variable, okay? So now, effectively what I've done is I've taken this file, JSON1.txt, and I've read the entire context into this string variable. Now that I have it in this string variable, I can do exactly what I just showed you. I can do JSON.loads, and then I can access the stuff, okay? So I'll show you here. Let me exit out of this. Okay, I actually have, all right, this is the same code that I just showed you, all right? And so if I were to go ahead and run this, okay, and I'll do it, I'm going to do Python-I so it'll stay inside the interpreter. Okay, see, it printed Bob Smith, okay, but let me go back to the, okay, so here's my code. So I now have this variable data, okay, and you see data has all this age, name, Bob Smith, title, okay, and so I can do data name, data, okay, the U means that it's Unicode, okay, so don't worry about the U, it's not really important at this point. Do title, okay, senior engineer, and I can do age. Okay, 42. All right. So I think that's a pretty good intro. Now I'm going to do one more thing real quick right here. Okay. I'm going to create a new JSON. So we'll do JSON4.txt. Okay. And we're going to make this one a little bit more complicated. So we'll have name Bob. Okay. And then we'll have maybe we'll have skills, okay, and then we'll kind of do the same thing we did before, so we'll have throwing, but in this case, we'll have a bunch of different numbers here. We'll have like 4, 5, and 6, okay, and then for here, we'll have let's say we do climbing. And then in this one, maybe we'll have, 9, 10, 11, something like that. And that's probably enough, actually. We don't need to make this too complicated, okay? So now what we have is we have a dictionary that has this skills attribute, and inside that, there's another dictionary, and then inside that, we have a list, okay? So now we've got a pretty decently complicated structure here. Okay, and let me make sure. Okay, it looks like I've got all of my stuff, so I'm going to save this. All right, so now let's actually go ahead and modify our program to parse JSON 4. Okay, so I'm going to go back in here, and I'll just change this to JSON 4. Okay, and so if I go over here and let me exit out of this, we'll do Python -i test.py. Okay, so it ran all this stuff in here. So it parsed JSON 4 and put it into this data. So now I should have this variable here called data. Okay, and you see there's all the stuff. Okay, so if I do data name, I get Bob. Data skills. Okay, I get all that stuff. Data, skills, throwing. Okay, I get 4, 5, and 6. Data, skills, throwing, 0. Okay, I get 4. All right, and if I were to put in a 1, I get 5. If I were to put in a 2, I get 6. And if I were to put in a 3, it would say out of bounds because there's only a 4, 5, and a 6. There is nothing in slot 3. Okay, so that is the lecture on JSON. Okay, and for your lab and assignment, you're going to have to use this JSON in order to do things. All right, thanks.